Welcome to The Curious Leader, a podcast exploring the humble and human way of new leadership. Curious leadership, future skills farming, and new leadership all have one thing in common. It's a humble way with great impact. Creating a culture, creating your culture, means cultivating people, teams, and communication along with adapting frameworks and principles how to work together. The Curious Leaders podcast takes you on to meaningful conversations. My guests and I will reflect and exchange on new leadership, the importance of trust, courage, and curiosity, on future skills farming as well, such as developing the art of listening and how to create a culture for creativity and innovation, how to deal with conflict, with misunderstandings, with different human needs. My name is Karola Zakotnik. I'm a keynote speaker, facilitator, coach, trainer, and also author and performing artist. I work with leaders of all areas to improve their impact, supporting them in creating new cultures and new leadership styles. And you can find more on Curious Leadership and myself on karolazakotnik.com. Now let's start with today's guest, John Ireland. He's a consultant, trainer, and coach. Works with leaders of all areas. He's originally English. And together we do some work on attitude. He, as an organizational psychologist coming from psychological aspects, what attitude does to us, how important it is to have a mindfulness practice in everyday leadership. And my part there, coming from the performing arts, is how to express emotions physically with your body and which kind of impact that has. But now let's welcome John. And let's talk to John what he says about curious leadership. Leadership is something you need to cultivate. Same with wine. Trust. Such a big word. How do you grow trust? Does that also grow trust?
No.
A field of trust? How do you grow trust? Because it's something that also has to be cultivated. It's not just there.
I mean, I think there's two things around trust. I think one is growing it and establishing it, and the other is maintaining it. And I think that we, particularly in business, talk about, is establishing trust. And I think it's the role of teams and leaders to actually maintain it. I think what's nice with trust is, we all bring our own biography around trust. If I've grown up in an environment where I don't know what trust is, it's really tough later on to learn it. And some people have had good experiences and some people bad experiences. I think there's some reflection in that. What do I need? And I think it's important in a team, in a culture, to talk about that openly. In simple terms, some people, sort of give trust, but if it's taken away, it's really tough to get it back. And others grow it very, very slowly, but it's there forever, a bit black and white again. But so I think it's a very, very individual thing. The value of trust is, things happen quicker, things are more open. And I think there's a word here which we haven't in the conversation up till now around culture, is this topic of openness and vulnerability. And this is a very personal thing, but in sport as well as in business, it's been proven that, where is that culture of vulnerability and openness, then the quality of teamwork is exponentially better. So I think that part of trust, of building it, maintaining it, is developing a culture of emotional security where people can talk openly and build and develop it. And again, one topic for me around this is what I find a bit sad is we talk so often around where there is not trust, right? And this always, gets the focus. But I also think it's important to look and see, where there is trust and why there's trust there. And acknowledge that it is there, celebrate it, and work with it. There's a very good example, a guy I quite like, Simon Sinek. He did some work with the US, the Navy SEALs, and he's got a lovely presentation on this. And the conclusion is, that the SEALs would choose somebody they can trust and not necessarily the best at the job, right? So they would accept a lower skill level if the trust was there, right? And I think that speaks volumes about the role of trust.
Yeah.
As I say, I think in business, in sport, take the business context. If there's trust and openness there, then you just get things done more quickly. Mm-hmm. Simple.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about openness and vulnerability. When I talk about trust, it's again the thing when emotions, feelings, and thinking are connected. Mm-hmm. So you have the allowance to live all of that, mm-hmm. and an organizational culture will kind of lead to success when this culture allows to have instinct, intuition, and intelligence mm-hmm. as a unity, mm-hmm. To be lived mm-hmm. as a unity. So it's not only about Excel sheets and evaluations based on numbers, but it's also about what do I feel with that, mm-hmm. what do I experience with it, what do I take out, which is actually what you say, openness and vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And it's so crucial for us, no? Indeed it is. Leadership, growing trust, growing confidence. Do organizations live that? John says yes. His experience is that we're making big progress here.
Yeah, but I think, we're making massive progress on these topics. Organizations I work with, are acknowledging the need and the value of this. I think we're getting a younger generation now coming through, I call it the emotional revolution, where it's okay to talk about these topics openly. I look at, as I say, if I take in sport, if I take rugby in the UK, the number of players. There was a great campaign which was developed, which was called Lift the Weight in rugby. This was about, people being able to talk openly about their emotional problems, given the pressures that they're in. And, these people in professional sport are under immense pressure. And I just think that it's fantastic, the way this is talked openly about. So you see, or maybe from the perspective of young people, they're sporting heroes. But when these conversations are in the media and interviews, people are aware of, there are two sides to it. And that's the reality. I think it's always been there. We've just not talked about it. And, again, what it does is, it improves teamwork, and if you talk about the reality of where you are, then you can find a fitting way forward. But if you're denying the fact that you're afraid of this game, then you're not going to have a good game. But if you can talk about it beforehand and somebody can help you through that, then the chances are you can put that to one side and get on with the game. And I think that's exactly the same in business. I imagine somebody going for to do a big presentation, whether it be a client or within the company, and if they could have somebody just to talk about how they were feeling beforehand in order to be able to get themselves well set up and prepared, be brilliant. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, what I hear also is, on one hand, is being aware of emotions or feelings and being able to speak about it creates effectiveness, thus then resulting in efficiency also, but also creates healthier people. Means also it's a very sustainable, money saving. It's a very, very cheap way of fostering high performance.
Absolutely.
And a very human leap.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I do anyway, get up because I want to perform.
Yeah.
I love it. I've always enjoyed it. I get a lot of fulfillment out of it. I get a lot of satisfaction. I get a motivation out of it. It's brilliant. I think the topic is taking care of the costs of performance. I think this is where sport is much better, with recovery, regeneration. But we come back to culture again, is that we have a culture within a team, within an organisation. We talk about the costs of performance and how we can, as a unit, as a team, is how we can take care of each other. I think it's, the most normal thing in the world. But it's important that it's a part of the team culture.
Yeah, and it is, like you said, the most normal thing in the world, and it's the most cost-effective thing in the world also. I think this is where this equation is not known.
Well, I think it's known. I just don't think that people realise the value of it. I don't think.
Which I implied. We said it's not known. Yeah. It's not conscious, or yeah.
I mean, it's the topic. I think here when we're talking about this in terms of leadership, how much time do leaders and organisations take and invest in these topics? You use the word sustainability, and I'm 100% with you there. Let's take an example. If you're running a marathon, you're going to run 42k. You've got a start and a finish, right? So you prepare for the start, and when you get to the finish, then you take care of your regeneration, your recovery. In life, we've got birth and death, right? That's the start line and that's the finish line, right? So as humans, and this is where I think it's one of the great things out of the pandemic, we actually need to learn to take care of ourselves, right? To realise I'm a priority in my life, yeah? To realise, some days I'm good and some days I'm not so good, right? That I acknowledge when I'm tired or I'm not thinking or whatever, that's the time to take a bit of a time out, to do something about it. I think these are the conversations that need to be going on in teams, where we've got leaders on the one side is, driven for performance, great, that's it, fabulous. But also take time for these, mental, emotional, physical health topics. And as I say, if we've got trust and we're doing things more quickly, we'll have those chats quicker. It'll be easier then. We won't be looking for time. We'll have it because we're more efficient. We're more effective. Yeah.
That outlook to have more time and feel better, isn't it worth giving it a try? Thank you, John, for this interview. Very, very big thank you. And if I ask you to sum up, what are the most important skills a good leader needs, how would you put that?
So I think there's a skill here, for leaders. I think for us all, but for leaders, is asking the good questions, activating the conversation. We all listen, we contribute, we see what we've got, and then we decide, if we look at the purpose of where we want to go, which one fits best.
Time for some music. Listen to Smile, sung by me, Carola Zakotnik. Smile, though your heart is breaking. Smile, even though it's aching. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. Smile through your fear and sorrow. Smile, maybe tomorrow you see the sun comes shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness, although a tear may be ever so near. That's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You see, their life is still worthwhile if you smile. Yeah, and that was it for today. This was John's last turn. And next week we will meet Horst Michael Schaffer. He's a director, arranger, composer, and he's leading a big band and seeing how leadership with experts on a musical quite high level works. See you next week. Curious Leadership. Please think of subscribing to the podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. You can do that on carolazakotnik.com or of course on any of your favorite platforms for podcasts. See you next week. Yours, Carola.